Hey everybody, welcome to Sid's Little Corner of the Internet. We've got a Transformers review coming your way. This time around, we're going to be taking a look at the Transformers Studio Series 86 Springer. This is Springer as we saw him in that 1986 animated Transformers movie. I would like to note that apparently for this segment, I forgot to turn my microphone on. So enjoy this very abbreviated, sped up version of us looking at the box. Behold, laid out here before you is everything that came inside that packaging with this leader class Springer. But before we get into that, I do want to talk about one of my main gripes here. So as we saw on the packaging, this is considered a leader class, which came with a leader class price point. But I want to show you something that annoys me. So this is the packaging for the Siege War for Cybertron Springer, which, by the way, look at that deal I got at Ross. It's pretty good. But anyway, you'll notice this Springer was a Voyager class. And, wow, that looks familiar, doesn't it? Here, let me turn it to the side a little bit. Well, my goodness. My goodness. So what I'm trying to tell you is this was a Voyager class that back, a few years ago would have been, give or take, $30. Well, now he's a leader class, and he's the MSRP on those, I think, is $54.99. And yeah, it's the same figure. It's been mildly retooled. The shoulders are a little bit different. We'll get into all that when we get into the comparisons. But yeah, I'm really annoyed because really that extra $25, what you're paying for is, let's see, this, and that. So maybe that a little bit because they changed it up. But the previous Springer, you got this. Oh, well, that looks pretty familiar. And then you got this one. That looks pretty familiar. And then you got this, which is his propeller, obviously, that comes apart and doubles as his sword, which would be that. So, yeah, you're paying, 25 extra dollars for a big bomb, a sword, and a hammer, and a big rifle. So just buyer beware. I'm simply pointing out my annoyance with it. Anyway, let's get this stuff out of the way and get back to the regularly scheduled programming. So let's go over everything that came inside that box now that I got my little rant out of the way. So you have your little book of, or sheet of warnings, you've got your book of instructions, and then you're left with what you have here. I'm going to go through this kind of quick. We'll start with these, since these are the same things that came with the War for Cybertron Springer. So there you've got one of your little guns. And there you've got another little gun, and you do have blast effect compatibility on these, and you can see they're hollow inside. And let's see what's next. Let's go with the hammer. So there's your big Mjolnir of the Cybertron universe right there, which is kind of cool, I guess. And you've got a spot, I guess, if you want to put an Autobot symbol on it. I don't know why they left that blank, but there it is. And let's look at the big bomb. So you've got a big bomb or rocket. You've got blast effect compatibility there. So if you want to celebrate it a little bit, let's celebrate that. And yeah, you've got that going on. So awesome. Yeah, so there's your bomb. And then look at the big rifle over here, kind of an Ultra Magnus big style rifle. So it looks pretty good. There's the other side. And then you've got your two swords. So let's take a look at this main sword here, or the painted one. So that paint does look really nice on it. There's your hilt and everything that's going on in there. There's the other side. Got a little bit of a scratch. Could have been from me. Could have been out of the packaging. I don't know. All right. And then you've got this sword here, which doubles as the propeller. So big and green and comes together in those two places. I do like the engineering on this. This is kind of nice. So, you're going to take this and pull it apart, and then you're supposed to turn these down like that. So that way these kind of lock into place and stay. And there you go. You plug that in and do some spinnies. Yeah, so those are your accessories. This is what you're paying for, other than a few mild engineering changes and some very mild tooling changes on this guy. But now that we got all that out of the way, let's go ahead and bring Springer in and take a look at his details. We will start, as we always do, with that head. So let's bring him in and take a look and see what we've got. So yeah, he's got a Springer face. The paintwork is pretty good, actually. I would have liked to have seen them do something right there with that little triangle up at the top. But yeah, the face looks good, blue eyes. A little bit of detail right in there if you want to take a look. There is his big old chest. Coming on down. Some sculpt work there. Keep making our way south. You can see those legs, what they've done. There's virtually no change here between the War for Cybertron Springer and this Springer. So if you have familiarity with that one, you will with this one as well. Let's take a look at his feet. So he's got nice big heel spurs. I really wish these joints were stronger, but he does have nice big heel spurs. That's hopeful. And there's those wheels, which are a little bit different. And then you can see compacts up. He's got some hollow areas in there, but it's not awful. And then the sides of the arms. Let's go ahead and get that side profile view. Come on with those weak ankles. So there he is from the side. It's really hard to tell because of these big shoulder blades, but he's got a little bit of a backpack. It's not awful, not by any means. All right, taking a look at the insides of the arms so you can see what's going on there. And then, of course, the shoulder blades themselves. You can see the joint assembly in there. And then let's take a look at him from the back. So it doesn't look too bad from the back. I think he gets the job done. More often than not, well, maybe you won't, but for me, I'm going to have weapons back here. He's got weapon storage, you know, so I'm going to have swords and all this stuff dangling from the back anyway, so it's not going to matter. But there he is from the back. Quick look at those details. And there's the back of his head. And got all that going on. Now you can adjust these and move these. So I've got them at a 45-degree angle. You can bring them all the way up like that if you want to do that. Or you can bring them all the way down. And these are very hard to move. There you go. So you can do that as well. So you've got 3 different options based on what you're storing on his back. And then that provides a little bit of additional detail. You can see the little rocket right there. That's kind of cool. Report right there for a flight stand. And necessary hollow areas based on his transformation. So I'm not going to complain about the hollows on him back here. These are all necessary for the way he transforms. So no big deal as far as I'm concerned. All right, so that is him as far as the details are concerned. Much like he was in the War for Cybertron version, I think he's a pretty good looking figure in bot mode. I think he's got a nice shelf presence as far as that goes. Now we'll do a quick run through of the articulation on the figure. Essentially the same exact thing as the War for Cybertron figure. He does have a couple of things different, which we will cover. But let's go ahead and bring him in. We're going to start with the head. You're not going to do much here. There's barring separating him right there, there's no, not really, I mean, he's going to look down right there, you know? So you get a little bit, not really anything side to side, and then you can go 360 degrees around. So not a lot of head movement, which is kind of disappointing. You get to these shoulders. So the shoulders are kind of convoluted. There's a lot going on here, but at this joint, you can raise him up about that far before he starts running into everything. And then at this joint, he spins. And then this shoulder, you can adjust that in or out to your liking, I suppose. All right, you've got bicep rotation right up here, or excuse me, right down there. And then you've got an elbow bend of more than 90 degrees right there. So if you can get around the shoulder pads, you've got some pretty decent range of motion there, I suppose. And then waist rotation, you can get him around. He's going to run into himself right back here. So this little spot right here, you're going to get some waist rotation, but that's where you're going to start running into things. You're not going to want to force it much beyond that. So that's what you're limited to, which I guess it's better than nothing. As far as the splits go, let's go ahead and get those legs up. You do get full splits on this guy, not quite a Springer Van Dam. And then let's get thigh rotation out of the way. You can go all the way around, and you need to for your transformation anyway, but yeah, go all the way around right there. I do appreciate the fact that these are all covered and closed in, so that's good. Kicking forward is that much. Kicking backward is that much before you run into his backpack. Knees, nice deep knee bend right there, so plenty of range of motion as far as that goes. And then let's get down to these feet. I love these feet and I hate these feet. So plenty of range of motion as far as the ankle tilt goes. Goodness gracious, more than you'll ever need. And then you can tilt the feet down that much without running into stuff, and then up that much, which is great range of motion. I mean, especially, if you're going to have him like this, some kind of a kneeling pose, something like that, that's great. But this, both of these, They're not exactly loose, but they're not strong enough to hold this guy his full weight in an awkward position when he's got all of his accessories on him. So you're going to find yourself constantly looking for that sweet spot where he doesn't fall forward or he doesn't fall backward because those ankles can't hold him. But overall articulation, I think, is done pretty well. The head is awful. Waist is limited. These need to be stronger, but actual range of motion on this figure is pretty good. Before we start bringing in all of his accessories, I did want to point out one cool little feature that they added on this version of him that was not there on the War for Cybertron version. Actually, let's just cover both things. On the War for Cybertron version, these shoulder blades were fixed. They were just up like this, and that was it. You couldn't move them around and do that kind of stuff. So there you go. Good, bad, ugly, whatever it is. But this other little feature, this is, I guess it's kind of cool. So as part of the transformation, you would lower this piece right here, and then you would pull this out and you would spin it around. But if you look in here, one of the things that you can do, you have this little guy now. So you've got this little tiny torch that he used in the movie that you can bring out, and then you basically need to keep all this apart. But per the instructions, let's get that around. You're supposed to have him like this and flip that around, close that up. So he's going to be upside down. You turn his hand around to make it look like it's right side up, and then you've got that little torch right there. So yeah, that's kind of cool if you want to use it for posing. There's really nothing that holds this. That doesn't lock in anywhere, doesn't do any of that stuff like that. So it's just sitting there and all floppy. So you push that in and do your best to hold that. But yeah, it's there if you want to use it. So let's go ahead and tuck that away again. Push that in. Bring that out. Bring it around. Close that up. Move that hand back the way it was supposed to be. And rotate that. And voila. Now we have Springer's hand back where it needs to be. So talking about the accessories, not going to spend a lot of time here. There are a lot of them, but the basics, I think you guys know what you can do with these. You saw this from War for Cybertron, so you can plug them in. He's got ports right there. He's got ports in his hands. You can plug them in there. You can plug it in here if you want to. Plug them in down here. I think you get the gist. So you can do all that, right? So I'm going to put these back at 45s. And oh my goodness, takes a lot of pressure. And you'll notice that I keep doing this because I need to find that sweet spot because of those ankles right there. So let's bring in the rocket. So you've got a slot back here. This rocket has a tab. You'll notice that this rifle has a tab. You'll notice that this sword has a tab. So you can use these tabs to go into these 3 slots right there and configure them any way you want. The rocket is just going to be my example. You just plug it in, and I mean, it seems appropriate. You know, there you go. You got a rocket, and then just because, why not? Oh no, he just fell flat on his face. Springer, are you okay? Oh no. Yeah, there you go. Ooh, stay. Yeah, so you go, Springer with the rocket. Now you can do the same thing with the sword and the rifle. One thing that I do want to point out is there's a bit of a quality control issue here. These slots right here, boy, were they tough. Like trying to get something in here. These were so tight. And you can actually see, if you look close, hopefully, you see a little bit of that transfer where I plugged that rifle in to these slots right here. So either this tab is too big or these slots are just slightly too small. And it's not just this part, it's the rocket as well. It's also the sword. So they all have trouble as far as tabbing in. Now they're not as bad now because essentially I've pushed everything in and gotten it cleared. But yeah, you can plug stuff in and do that and do that. Rifle's still kind of tough, you know. So there you go. You got plenty of weapon storage that you can use right there. Obviously, the sword, the propeller sword, you can plug it in right there. Oh, the other feature, forgot to show this earlier. He does have hands that open and close. So as part of the articulation, he's got open and close hands. Somebody's probably going to call me out on that in the comments because I didn't hit it earlier. But yeah, there they are. So hammer, same thing. Oh, geez. Everybody's got the dropsies today. So the hammer, which actually has some pretty good mass. Oh, try something. Oh, no, he's not going to fall. He'll fall forward. Oh, that was close. Okay, so anyway, yeah, the hammer has a tab right there as well. So you can do the same thing. Plug it in. Can't plug it in when those are at 45s. You got to have that completely flat, or just plug the hammer in over here, I suppose. And the hammer goes in fine. So it looks like maybe a tolerance issue might be with the rifle. So there you go. So let's go ahead and plug the rocket in. Just get that out of the way, and then we'll just give him a rifle and a sword. Give me your arm. Take it. Take it. There you go. And then the sword. Close your little hands. And then I've got one of his guns. Where'd it go? Oh, it's right there. So you can do these little guns right there on the side. And then this gun on the side. So he's got a place where he can store all of this stuff. So he's covered as far as overall storage goes. You can get everything on him. So there you go. That is the accessories, and that is what you're paying for this leader class figure. Now, typically, this is where we do the transformation. I'm not going to do the transformation on camera for this guy because this is the War for Cybertron mold. Transformation minus just fiddling with these shoulder blades is exactly the same as the War for Cybertron Springer. So I'm not going to waste your time or mine doing the transformation on camera. We're just going to jump right into the comparisons. We'll start with the car mode, and then we'll work our way to helicopter mode and then get him back in his bot mode. Here he is in his car mode. This is one of the two modes that he has, the other one being that helicopter that we'll see shortly. But yeah, this is not awful. I'm okay with this. I'm not overly excited about it. Maybe it's because I've seen it before, but I think it gets the job done. I do see a couple spots back here where I think a little bit of paint would have gone a long way, but I wanted to throw them on the turntable here just unobstructed so you could get a full view of this guy going all the way around. But yeah, let's go ahead and get that turntable out of the way now. We'll bring him in and we'll take a look at some of those details. We'll start up here with the front of the vehicle. So yeah, I mean, it looks pretty cool, I guess. I'm going to squint and pretend that these are headlights because I don't see where he has them anyplace else. But yeah, so you've got that yellow there. You've got that grill. Oh, didn't have that clicked all the way in. Oh, it's better now. He's a little more symmetrical. But yeah, anyway, so you've got that yellow. Looks pretty good. Coming around to the side, there's those front wheels looking pretty good. Thank goodness they're not mushroom pegs. So thank goodness for small things, I suppose. You can see when you get him off to the side here, he's got a few gaps. I mean, it's just one of those cases where the more you squeeze, something else pops out of place. So I'm not going to sweat this too much. But there is the side of the vehicle. Got little wings right there, which look pretty cool. Back here, would have been nice if he'd had some paint. You could have painted these. Made them tail lights, brake lights, whatever you want to call them. Painted this. Could have had a little rocket right there. Especially since you didn't make that, I say you, especially since the designers didn't make that blast effect compatible, so would have been nice to have had some coloring in there. And then coming around to this side, same thing as the opposite. Here he is from the top, so you can see how he looks there. And then from the bottom. So he's kind of reminiscent to me, I hope this translates to whoever's watching this, but the Can-Am Spider. So it's kind of like a motorcycle. It's got the two wheels up front, one wheel in the back. That's kind of what this reminds me of, just because he's got that the skinny rear end. That's kind of what he looks like to me in a certain way. But yeah, so that is him in his vehicle mode. Let's go ahead and just jump in and start talking about those accessories. You've got the whole plethora. You can do the things, whatever you want to do with all these. You are limited on the War for Cybertron Springer. You did have some pegs right here, some ports where you could plug the guns in. You don't have that here, so you're going to plug them in right there if you want. And then, of course, you've got your big port right there, and then you've got that little slot. So if you want to do the sword, you can do the sword right there. If you want to do the rocket, you just plug the rocket in right there. You can do some of that if you want to have this sword right there. Limited only by your imagination and the peg holes. So you've got some right back there as well. Just be careful if you put the guns back here. He's going to shoot himself right there. So nobody wants that. Just be careful what you do. And you do have the ability with these right back here where you can plug in some blast effects if you want. And then you can do some of that action. So got a little dog hair on there. Oh, goodness. But yeah, so you can do that. And you can have a pretty good time with this guy. Yeah, he's not remarkable, but he's certainly adequate. And just it's something I've seen before. But let's go ahead and move on to the comparisons and see how he looks against some other vehicles out there. So let's go ahead and just get this first comparison out of the way. On the left, of course, is the man of the hour. On the right over here is the War for Cybertron Springer. So you can see this is the same figure. I mean, there are a few things that are a little bit different. You've got these guys up here versus that over there. Big or ports right there, no ports here. Maybe a slightly different shape there. But the overall engineering, the overall components, I'd say 80%, maybe more, are all shared components here. Just a few remolded items, and then of course a different paint job. But yeah, we'll get a couple of different views here just to show you what we're working with. But yeah, here's that 3/4 front view. Here they are front to front. Here's a 3/4 rear view, which I think showcases a little bit in a little bit more detail the changes right up here. So you can see what you're working with between those. You can see the rears are the same except for the paint over here, which actually I think the paint adds to it on that War for Cybertron Springer. And in this view, we see them back to back. And here they are going the same direction. Moving on to our next vehicle mode or car mode comparison. This is another Springer, and I will say, oh, he's got his problems, but I definitely like the way he looks in his car mode more than this Springer over here. But this is the Transformers Generations Thrilling 30, I believe, the Generations Springer. And for our final car mode comparison, I unfortunately do not have a G1 Springer in my collection, so this is the next best thing I'm hoping. So this is my G1 Blur. That's going to do it for the car mode comparisons for Springer. So through the miracle of video editing, he is going to magically become a helicopter now. Here we have Springer in his helicopter mode. I figured, much like in the car mode, I would put him on the turntable, let him get a nice 360 unobstructed so you could see all the good stuff that he has to offer. It's not hugely different from the car mode, but it is different enough that you can tell it is a different mode, I suppose. I think he's a little plain back here. Could have used maybe some more paint or some more detail. But overall, I think he comes out looking pretty decent as far as that goes. But now that he's gone all the way around, let's bring him in. Let's get this turntable out of the way, bring him in, do a quick look at his details in this mode, and then jump into those helicopter comparisons. We will start right up front. Come here. Get that out of the way. And yeah, looks a lot like the car mode. There's nothing different here as far as the geometry. It's just the location of these front sections right there. So coming around to the side, you can see what you've done here. What we've done is these are the undersides of his arms. Basically, you've just taken these out. Right there helps if I keep it on camera, I suppose. And then flipped these around. So nothing major here, but it was enough to kind of give him some little helicopter wings, which works out pretty nicely. I've got that a little crooked. That should be even, so disregard that. It should be up like that. There we go. And then coming around to the side, I can't say I'm the biggest fan of this right here. It looks like where it came out of the mold, you've got a little bit from the sprue there where it just kind of a little bit of a sloppy molding process. There he is, nice and slim and trim from the side though. I think overall that looks okay. There's the back. And then coming around to this side, just like the other side. And then you can see that sword, how it became the two helicopter blades. Now the instructions say for these little guys right here for the hilt to fold those down as well. You can also just leave them straight out if you want to. I don't think it takes away from the looks at all, but there he is from the top. Straighten that out. And there he is from the bottom, so you can see how he comes together there. So yeah, not the worst looking figure, not by a long shot. So let's go ahead and jump into those comparisons now. Our first comparison for helicopter mode is the War for Cybertron Springer. As noted before, it is essentially the exact same figure, just with a few different pieces, molded pieces, but the engineering, the transformation, all that stuff works the same. So you can see, particularly in the helicopter mode, this is a little bit different up here, maybe some slight differences, and then of course the paint and the helicopter blades themselves. This is all different from what you have on the Studio Series 86 Springer. So let's do a couple of different views here. Obviously, this is that 3/4 front view. Here they are facing each other front to front. Here is the 3/4 rear view. Here they are back to back. And finally, here they are going in the same direction in that 3/4 view. Moving on to our next comparison, this is the Transformers Generations Thrilling 30 Springer. For our final helicopter comparison, as I stated earlier, I do not have a G1 Springer in my collection, so this is going to be our substitute. This is the G1 Decepticon Spinister. That's it for the helicopter mode. Let's get this guy into his bot mode and do some comparisons there. For our first bot mode comparison, here we see the Studio Series 86 Springer next to the Transformers Generations Thrilling 30 Springer. Our next comparison is the Siege War for Cybertron Springer, and like we talked about earlier, for all intents and purposes, these two are the same figure. Yes, there's some slightly different molded components, and there's a few minor differences in the engineering and the transformation, but they are the same figure. Since we used him in the car mode comparison, I thought it would be nice to go ahead and bring Blur back, the G1 Blur back, just to have a nice bot mode comparison. Modern engineering, G1 engineering, there you go. Along those same lines, since we used my G1 Spinister in the helicopter mode, I figured I would bring him back in the bot mode just because why not? As an added bonus, here is Springer hanging out with his boss. This is the Commander Class Rodimus Prime. That's going to wrap it up for the comparisons, so let's go ahead and get into those final thoughts. So there we have the Transformer Studio Series 86 Autobot Springer, and although I am struggling to reconcile the price point of leader class for this figure, I have to admit that for the most part, this is a good figure with decent engineering, decent enough quality, plenty of accessories, and lots of playability. But let's go ahead and jump into it. And the first thing we'll talk about is the overall looks, the aesthetic that he brings. His bot mode looks good. I mean, this is the War for Cybertron Siege Springer, which was a good figure back in the day, and it's a good figure now. He has a really good shelf presence, so no major issues there. The only thing that I would say really in the bot mode is he's kind of thick. He's got that big backpack, but plenty of weapon storage as long as you've got it all configured right. So even that's not too bad. Both of the alt modes are okay. They're nothing really exciting. My personal preference is I still like the alt modes on the Generations Thrilling 30 Springer better over this version, but this gets the job done for sure. I'm going to give him an 8 out of 10 for overall looks. Moving on to the articulation, he's got good articulation everywhere except for the head, which is, it just drives me crazy in figures these days. I really want my guys to be able to look up. You know, it's kind of like Shaun of the Dead and dogs not being able to look up. It bugs me. So he's very limited in the head. And it would have been nice, this is just kind of a wish list item, to have had butterfly joints. I think if they could have found a way to engineer this to increase his range of motion for those shoulders, I think that really would have taken him up a level. Everywhere else is good. He's got waist rotation, plenty of bend in the knees and the elbows and the feet and all that good stuff. So you're not going to struggle basically just with your imagination. You're not going to struggle to get him in some good poses minus that head, essentially. So I'm going to give him an 8 out of 10 for that overall articulation, but that head really does hurt. Moving on to the accessories, this guy is loaded, as he should be when you're going to charge a leader class price for a Voyager class figure, and really all you did was just add a few more items. So he's got plenty of stuff to play with, plenty of different ways you can use all of his weapons, decent enough weapon storage, at least in the bot mode. Weapon storage suffers in the alt modes, but bot mode, you can keep everything stored and reconfigure it to your heart's desire. So yeah, he is class leading in accessories, no doubt about it. So I'm going to give him a 10 out of 10. Now, regarding quality, I'm going to ding him a little bit here. This is not a low quality figure, but I will say that in the course, especially the first time through of transforming him, handling him, getting the weapons stored and those kinds of things, there were some areas that were really, really difficult. So some areas were tough to line up and to tab in. I don't know if it's a tolerance issue. I don't know if it's because of paint in some areas, like maybe back here on the backpack with the accessories and the weapon storage. But then the overall transformation, trying to get things tabbed in, it just kind of felt like it was fighting me the first few times. It's gotten better over time, but that initial quality was concerning me, to be sure. Long term, I do have concerns over the strength of these ankles, just like I had in the Siege figure. So something to watch out for. They're tight for now, but who knows how long that's going to last. So I'm going to give him a 7 out of 10 for overall quality. I just feel like he could have been done a little bit better. Our last bullet is overall value. I'm going to hurt him pretty bad for this one. I feel very strongly that this should not have been considered a leader class. I get it, Hasbro, Takara, they want to reissue figures and take the same exact figure, although he's got a few differences. I admit that. Take essentially the same exact figure, put a new paint job on it, put him in a new box, and say, hey, this is the figure for this line now. I totally get it. But this one feels very much like a money grab, and it was a hard pill to swallow. You're paying $20 extra for a few more accessories. Now, admittedly, I swallowed that pill. I bought him. But would I do it again, or would I recommend it to others? I would say maybe think twice about it. If you don't have the Siege Springer, then this is a good opportunity to pick this figure up. If you do have the Siege Springer, you're not really gaining a lot here in this figure. So I'm going to give him a 6 out of 10. Oh, I should mention this was a figure that I picked up in a Target in North America for 55 US dollars. So I'm going to give him a 6 out of 10 for overall value. I just think you're paying a lot for accessories. So that brings us to our grand total. Out of a possible 50 points, not points, 50 points, Studio Series 86 Springer gets 39 out of 50, which puts him at 78%. I'm not going to recommend this figure. I will tell you, if you have Siege Springer, I think you're good. If you don't have him and you want to pick this guy up, then go for it. You've seen the review. You know what you're in for. If you can use some coupons, or if you can find this guy on clearance a few months down the road, even better. So with that, that's going to wrap it up. I hope this helps. Hope you guys got some good entertainment out of this. If you haven't already done so, be sure to hit the like button. Be sure to subscribe. Leave a comment if you feel like it. And if you could, please share this video, share this channel with anybody you think might be interested in what we do here. It's always fun to watch that community grow. So until we see you guys in the next one, take care.